I will just share my screen here if it will allow me. Goodness, it's not letting me now. Give me a minute. There we go.
There it is. We can see you clearly.
You can see it now. Perfect. Awesome. The system works. All right. So, oh, just one. All right. Your recording button was there in my in my face. So welcome to Frauds and Scams Prevention, and we'll talk a bit about multi-level marketing. My name is Suzanne Walker. I'm from Carya, and my information is there. And as Ronnie had mentioned, this will be available. So if you want to reach out to me, feel free to do so. My email and number are there. So just before we get started, just a bit about what I'm going to talk about today. So the difference between frauds and scams, and what the major types of scams are that are out there that we see from time to time. Not all of them, because there are just so many and they're changing daily, minute by the minute even. And just when I think I've heard it all, we hear something else. And then also we'll talk a bit about how to detect a fraud or a scam and to protect yourself, your community, and the ones that you love. And then some resources at the end that if you or someone you love is a victim of a fraud or a scam, what is available to help you. You're not alone, and that's something that I want to say right out there. As we go through this, we'll look at the numbers, but they're staggering, so just keep that in mind. And so just before I get started, I just want to let you know who we are, who I am, and who Carya is. So Carya is a nonprofit agency here in Calgary. We work with everybody from infants to seniors. I think last year I was told that the youngest was under a year old, and then the oldest was over 102 years old. We're one of the oldest agencies in Calgary. We just celebrated last year our 110th anniversary, so we're pretty proud of that. And just there's sort of a program for everyone, and community financial wellness is one of them. And so what is community financial wellness? So we are a free, offer free individual and group programming to groups and individuals in the Calgary and surrounding area. The financial coaching is one-on-one, and we also offer a match savings program where we offer 6 months worth of financial literacy courses. And during that time period, as a participant, you would save money and track your expenses and save for a specific asset. And at the end, if you have completed the program successfully, you would have saved $300 for yourself. and then we would match that with $900. So in the past, individuals have used the funds to go back to school for our RSP contributions or our ESP contributions for their children. They've also used it for items that will improve their livelihood. So assets such as even a small emergency fund that is available in the event that something happens. We also offer tips and tools workshops. There's no money associated with them, but they're great opportunities for groups or small groups to gain knowledge on specific topics that they want to learn about, everything from frauds and scams like we're talking about today, to wills and estates, to our RSPs, to budgeting, and everything in between. And then also we offer the RESP workshops and facilitate helping individuals sign up. And I can't speak enough about RESPs. If you have children, I would strongly encourage you looking into an RESP for your child or your children, as school costs are exploding, and it's just a great way to facilitate your children's education, and the government has a great matching program to go along with it. So with financial wellness, just quickly, it's about your entire well-being. It's not just about your finances. Financial stress impacts so many other parts of our lives, can impact our mental well-being, our physical well-being, even our spiritual well-being. So we take a really holistic approach to it at Carya, and believe that financial literacy and money management is a skill that you can gain and build upon throughout your life. And just like what we're talking about today, things change. So it's always good to look back on it from time to time. So let's get into what is a fraud. So a fraud implies that there is a deception. It is a breach of confidence or trust. So we all have trust in one another. Most of the time, but unfortunately, that's not what, we'd like to think that, but it's not always the case. It is a serious crime, and it is punishable, and it can be, you do see fraud cases in court from time to time. They are hard to prove, but when they go to court, you usually hear about the big ones. And there are various types of frauds out there. Everything from people will take advantage of us in any way that they can. It's not something that they pick and choose. It's whether they have money, whether it's a prestige, they're always out there. And what is a scam? So a scam is a fraudulent scheme. So it's more elaborate. It always, I shouldn't say always, but more times than not, it involves money and business transactions. And we'll talk a bit more about some scams later on. And so a couple of different examples. So you've won a prize, but in order to get that prize, you've got to give your credit card number, or you have to pay for something up front and provide a payment, a dollar value to get that before, and then when you pay the money or send the money, oftentimes there's nothing in return. Also, charities that come and ask for money, but they're not a legitimate charity. And again, various ways that these scammers will reach out to us: telephone, email, door to door. We often come to our doors knocking, asking for money for various charities, as I'm sure most of us have had happen in the past. So this is a little bit of an interactive game, I would say, or so if you want to write it in the chat, what you think the answer is, whether this is a fraud or a scam. So using another person's medical card to get services, is that a fraud or a scam? That's a fraud. And so billing 10% more than the actual amount of the goods that are being purchased. And that's a fraud. And then you receive an email that you've won $5 million. And that's a scam. And then someone accepts cash in exchange for giving a construction contract to a political party and political party favors. That's a fraud. Sorry about that. A pop-up on your computer that you have been selected as the regional manager for a company, but you have to pay a fee before they send you and send your personal details. That's a scam. And an email or phone call from CRA asking you for personal information and personal details. And I think we've all had that one, and that's a scam. So who are the scammers? Anybody and everybody. Sorry, who can be scammed? I'm sorry, anybody and everybody. So potential victims, individuals who have lots of money or who have very little income. So oftentimes they'll prey on people who don't have a lot of income because they're vulnerable and they're looking to make money. Other times, scammers will find people who have lots of money because they know that they can get a quick return. if they have a good sale, so to speak, they can make a windfall of money from that individual. So there's really nobody who is immune to scammers. Also, people who are dependent on others. So if an individual is maybe more vulnerable, an older adult or someone with a disability, they do tend to be victims more times than not. So if you are a victim of a fraud or a scam, what can you do? So the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center is available. You can contact them. Also, just talking about how many people are victimized each year, but 28 million Canadians were victimized. And I believe that was a September 2020, lost more than $30 million. So that's a huge, huge amount. And I can't imagine what it is this year because of the pandemic. And just more examples of the scams and frauds. So online loans, a lot of online scams during the pandemic. Also employment scams were huge. The puppy scams. And this is a really shocking statistic that is really important to keep in mind, that less than 5% of all scams are reported to police or even the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. So what to look for, or warning signs? So unusual bank withdrawals. Time constraints. So if there's a narrow window, or somebody saying you can only do this in the next 24 hours, or not even that, usually they give you less than 24 hours to make a decision. Also limited availability. So there's only going to be 5 time slots for someone to come out and do this repair at this price. You have to sign up right now. And also, they will tug at your heartstrings or emotional threats. So we'll talk about that a bit more, but I think the big example, if you can remember a couple of years ago when the a terrible bus crash in Humboldt, when the hockey players were killed, 17, 18, I can't remember, but there were so many people, there weren't so many, but there were several online charities, so to speak, charities set up to help, but a lot of them were not. So just preying on people's heartstrings. I thought that was just terrible. And so who are the scammers? So they're often organized crime rings. They're well orchestrated. They adapt their technology to whatever's going on at the time, what the and marketing. strategies that are the newest thing that all the other real marketing companies are using. They also follow the headlines. So what I mean by that is when they hear in the news that there was, potential door-to-door people asking for money for a charity that doesn't really exist in a certain neighborhood, they'll move to a new neighborhood. And again, victimizing all levels of society. No one is immune. So regardless of where you live, what your socioeconomic background is, you can become a victim of a fraud or a scam. So types. So we've got mass marketing frauds. We've got investment frauds. We've got repair and sales scams. And then we've got the compassion love scams that I mentioned a bit about. And then the windfall windfall. So when there's large sums of money involved. So we'll dive a bit deeper into each of these. So with the mass marketing, that can be done phone, online, or mail. So we've all been, I think, on the receiving edge of a phone call. So a problem with your computer, the Windows, and they want you to basically give them access to your computer. We've also had the government agencies that call us that say that they're they don't say the Canada Revenue Agency, but border services. I don't know how many times I should be in jail, 20 million times over, I'm sure. And then the bank and investment company scams and frauds as well, that people will pose as investors or investment companies and take money from individuals. And then social networking scams as well. And those we've all seen them on our feeds, Facebook, even some on Twitter, asking us to that the things are available, and they again are a scam, just looking for our personal information. And then the non-delivery of a parcel, often via text message too. They'll say, I think I got one the other day that said that my Amazon package was being held up at customs, and I haven't purchased anything at Amazon for quite some time. So I knew that was a scam or a fraud. And there's also a Canada Post one similar to that I have received. So the investment scams and bank frauds and scams. So we've got the investment ads and seminars that will try to rope you in, and you only need to pay $500, $600, and you will get a very, very high rate of return on your money. And here's where it is, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Keep that in mind. Also the pyramid and the Ponzi schemes. So if I get 3 of my friends involved and they get 3 of their friends involved, I'll get more money. Those are more times than not all scams. The lotteries, where they'll want you to buy a ticket, but there's really no lottery at the end of the day. And then the employment scams, we chatted a bit about that earlier, talking about where they'll offer you a job, but you have to pay for the equipment. I heard one just in the news last week about a young girl who was looking for a part-time job, and it made it look very much like, I think it was a fairly, I can't remember what the company was, but it's a company that everybody's heard of, and they made it look really, really enticing, and she lost about $5,000. So just to be aware of that. And then the free trips. Again, you just have to give them your credit card, and you'll be able to go off to a beautiful, all expense paid vacation. And the repair scams. So we've got the door to door. They come to your door. They say that they can fix something. It's also over the phone. They'll come in and say that they can do your carpets, but they need the payment up front, and then no one will show. Other times they will say it's a certain price, come in, do a little bit of work, and then all of a sudden the price has escalated, has jumped quite a bit, and you're left basically with someone who is standing there looking for payment, and can be quite intimidating also. So we've got the compassion scams, and we've all heard of the grandparent or emergency scams, where older people will be contacted and made it seem to be as if it's their grandchild needing money, and what grandparent wouldn't want to give their grandchild money. So they're left in sort of a pretty vicarious position, because they feel that they are really helping their grandchild. Also, some charity scams, they'll again, oh, you need to help out these poor children, they need your money, and they can't do what they need to do and enjoy their life until you give them the money. And then the sweetheart scams that we've heard about. These, I don't think I need to explain those, but unfortunately they do exist. And then the bereavement and funeral scams, which I talked about a bit earlier, with an example being the Humboldt bus tragedy from a couple of years ago. So the credit card scams, so fraudulent statements that individuals will use to secure financing. So they will say that there is a property available, but you have to, pay so much up front, and then you go to Cuba or wherever, and there's no, it's a shack on the beach, or there's no home to a resort to stay in. Also, the credit card PIN frauds, so where they'll ask you to reveal your credit card and PIN. This doesn't happen so much now, but I remember I worked at a bank about 10 or 15 years ago, and that was really a really top scam that was going around. And then the, just talking about, as I said before, the financing. So they will ask you to put money down, and then when you go to actually get the piece of property, it doesn't exist. So how can you protect yourself and the ones that you love? So don't keep your scam emails, delete them. Your spam emails, delete them right away. The reason for that is that if it is spam and you're quickly going through, if you were to click on it and open it inadvertently or by mistake, you would could potentially give access to your computer and your information. Don't engage in email conversations with someone that you don't know. It seems to be pretty straightforward, but a lot of times we get, a really great email. Oh, wow, this sounds great. Maybe I should look into it. Don't be afraid to hang up the phone. If someone is harassing you, just hang up. If they are who they say they are, they're not going to harass you. And another really big one is to check your credit rating regularly. You will find, if you check your credit rating regularly, if there is anything that's out of the ordinary or something that you have not applied for, you can see it. I wouldn't say right away, but you do see it more than if you leave your credit and don't check it. Only when you go to get a credit card or do something that requires a credit check. At that point, it's not that it's too late. You can always get that fixed, but it is harder. So we suggest every 9 to 12 months, if not more than that. And never, ever, ever wire money to someone you do not know. And I'd even go further than that. Don't wire money to anyone. I mean, in today's banking environment, we can always do an email money transfer. Even with an email money transfer, I would recommend that you make sure that you know that individual and double check the email address as well, because if the person that you're sending the email money transfer to has auto deposit and you send it to a wrong person, getting that money back is very, very challenging. As I said, my banking experience, that auto deposits were one of our nightmares, because once that money goes into the account, the other person can take it and it's gone. Whereas if it's sent, there's that window between it being sent and being accepted that it can be canceled. And use your common sense. Again, if it sounds too good to be true, if you did not enter a contest, if there's a catch to it, walk away. And don't do business at your door. If it has to be now, then it can it's probably not something that you want. If they're not willing to give you time to think about it or to research it a bit more, that's a red flag. So, what to do if someone you know or love comes to you and says, I've been a victim of a scam or fraud? Listen to them without prejudice or judgment. Give them the time, be empathetic. Don't say, oh, well, you shouldn't have done it, but just listen. More times than not, just being a good listener is all that's needed, or it's appreciated. Be patient and tell them that you believe what has happened. A lot of times people are afraid to say and to share what has happened because they don't think anyone will believe them. And then encourage them to report it. You may even suggest that you go with them to the police or call the Canadian Anti-Fraud. So what to do if you are a victim of fraud? So first of all, just step back a minute and collect your thoughts. Pull all your documents together, even jot down some notes. This happened, so-and-so came to my door and said this at, in the morning, and I gave him my credit card at this time. Just write down those facts, because when something bad happens, we often forget the big details. Contact your financial institution right away, and so the bank that you deal with, and have them put a flag on your account. Also, contact Equifax and TransUnion, and they can also put flags on your account. And then contact the police and get a number of the police report, and then report the incident to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. And this is just the information about the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. I've got the information here for online as well as the phone. So it will be available in the PowerPoint. It just tells you how to access it here as well. Again, the website address, and then also the Better Business Bureau, and their number. And also, the Better Business Bureau is also a good resource that if someone does come to your door and you think that they are legit, if you were to call them, you could also get information from the Better Business Bureau if they were a legitimate company. And then also here in Calgary, there is the Elder Abuse Response Team. And that is their number. So it is there as well as a resource for you. And so hopefully, I know this was really quick, but I'm hoping that that has provided you with a very, very broad overview of frauds and scams. And if you have further questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And I will just stop sharing here in a moment. And if you have questions, I'd be more than happy, or comments, please feel free to unmute yourself, or if they're in the chat, we'll take a look at that. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. That was very informative, and we're very grateful for your time today. There were a couple of questions that came in, and if people would like to continue to add to the chat or to just raise your hand, and we'll be sure your question is answered. One of the questions, Suzanne, was how do you check your credit rating?
So you can go onto Equifax's website, and there is a way to do it. There is an option there. If you reach out to me, I can certainly give you the information, but definitely on their website, there is check your credit for free. We'd actually do a whole workshop on checking your credit, but that is something that you can do for free. Just be, I don't want to say careful, but be aware that there is also an option to pay. So you don't have to pay. And I would strongly encourage that you don't pay. You can pay if you want more in-depth information, but to get the information for frauds and scams, all that you need is the no fee one.
Terrific, thank you. Someone asked, do you have examples about financial or investment scams, like names of companies that people use when they're reaching out in these ways?
Oh gosh, I don't have the names, and I'm thinking the only one that I can think of in the past was, Breax years and years ago, I think. But they usually, if you're unsure of an investment firm or investment company, you can always check the Better Business Bureau, ask around if anyone else has seen it. Ask them some questions. How long have you been around for? Can you get me in touch with some of your other clients? I think one of the big keys to watch for is if they're offering a super high return on your money. Again, if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Thank you. Another question is, how do you know if it really is your bank or CRA calling you? How do you know who to trust?
So I always suggest to people that if they are legitimate, or sorry, I'll back up a bit. So if CRA calls you, say, can I have your phone number? And I'll call you back. Also ask for their ID. When you call back, if it doesn't say you've reached, Canada Revenue Agency, for one, for English, press 1, for French, press 2. If you don't get that, if the number, when you call it, it says, somebody answers and just says Canada Revenue Agency, that's probably they're not going to answer right off the bat. Again, with your bank, it's always and we talk about this in our banking workshop, it's really good to have a relationship with your bank. A lot of times, again, if your bank calls you, which sometimes they'll try and sell you something, say, yeah, I am interested. Can I call you back? What's your phone number? Again, call them back. If it goes to voicemail, if they say they're from TD, or say, oh, I'm going to come in. Can I speak to you when I come in? Oh, no, you have to do it over the phone. You can't do it in person. that might be a red flag. So just asking those curious questions. Also, if someone emails you, looking at the email to make sure that it is a legitimate email. So look at the language of the email. Look at the signature of the email. Again, back to that relationship with the bank. I know it's hard right now with the pandemic because we're not going into the bank, but I know on, for example, my online banking, it says your banking, not sure what it says, banking representative is, Suzanne Walker. Here's their email and their phone number. If somebody other than that calls, I'm going to call that person right back. And internet safety is a whole other session, so I won't get into that. But
I'm sorry. Just with respect to that, one of our participants suggested that hovering your mouse over an email address, you can see if it looks legitimate from the organization or the company. And our participant was hoping you would say a little bit about that and how that could help.
Sure. So the HTTPS with the secure, also, yes, hovering over the language, the logo, be a little bit wary if someone is emailing you out of the blue. If you haven't engaged in the conversation, if you haven't emailed Ronnie to ask for something, be cautious if maybe you get an email out of the blue saying, oh, I see that you qualify for a $10,000 limit increase on your credit card and you don't have a credit card. So I think the other piece about internet security is doing it on a secure device and in a secure location. So not doing your banking at the library or on public Wi-Fi at the Starbucks. Everybody does it. Not everybody, but a lot of people do it. And I just cringe because it's really unsafe, and it's not secure. So just making sure that, if you need to do transfers or check your banking, do that before you leave the house, or a secure network. I don't know if that answered the question, but
I think it was valuable information for sure. There's two questions, but I'm going to link the information together.
Sure.
So someone asked, if you get a call but you don't fall for the scam, should you report that you got the call?
And yes. Okay. Sorry. No. Sorry. And what was the part two? I jumped.
Oh, no, that's perfect. No, that's perfect. We know to report now. The other part is, could you repeat the number for the anti-fraud, Canadian anti-fraud?
Oh, it's in the PowerPoint. Hang on a minute here.
Margaret or I will look for it. And
I'm just going through too. Oh. Yeah. It's I think right near the end. And it will be on the slides that are how to report. Here we go. got the Better Business Bureau. That's not what you were looking for.
Suzanne,
Suzanne,
don't
we're
worry about it.
asking
Sorry.
about the is it the fraud line from the Canada federal government anti-fraud center?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
wonderful.
that was the question.
Okay, perfect. I'll drop it in the chat.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Sorry.
Those are the end of the questions that were submitted to me. Are there any other questions that people have? Feel free to ask, to unmute yourself and ask out loud if you prefer.
Sorry, I couldn't find that. I am legally blind, so it takes me a while to go back and find things. Sorry.
Well,
No worries, Suzanne. It's very, very deep. So I found it. It's in the chat and verbally
Perfect.
just going to read it out loud to folks. It's a 1-800 number, 1888. So that's 3 8s, 495 8501.
Yes. Last call for questions. If not, I would like to take another moment to thank you, Suzanne, so much for the contributions that you made to our conference today and for the information that you shared. We really appreciate you taking the time to prepare and to really let us know how we can protect ourselves from frauds and scams. It has appeared in the chat a couple of times, but I'll direct our participants to the link to a survey about today's session that will allow us to continue to improve the information that we provide, give us some good ideas for Conference 2022, and allow us to meet your needs a little bit more successfully with our future conferences. So if you could take a moment just to click that link, it'll just take a few minutes for you to fill that out, and we will really appreciate your feedback. Hearing no other questions, I thank you all for your time today, and especially Suzanne for your generosity in sharing your information and responding to our questions. Lots of thanks appearing for you in the chat as well.
Thank you for having me. This was a really great opportunity. I hope that if you have further questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Terrific. We appreciate that. With that, we'll close the session. A reminder that the next conference sessions start at 1:30, and we hope to see many of you then. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Yes, lots more thanks for you, Suzanne, in the chat. I'm just keeping everything open in case people haven't had a chance to follow
and I was
that
just
link.
gonna stick around in case someone wanted to stay. And
that's wonderful. Thank you. You know, Suzanne, I was given a very lovely bio for you at the beginning of this to read at the beginning of the session, and you had already started before I realized, oh my heavens, I just introduced you by name. I didn't read your bio, so I apologize so much, and I'm
no
grateful
worries.
And
I was worried I'd go over because this is normally about an hour plus, so I did go a little. Sorry.
Very well paced. I'm sorry that I didn't let everyone know more about you at the beginning, but your expertise certainly shone through. They didn't need me to tell you that you were an expert, but I do apologize that I didn't do that very well.
Don't worry about it.